All right. Sorry this took a little bit. I was out of town, so took a while for us to get back and get into the bit of things. But so one thing that I've always liked before we get into the movie, one thing that I've always liked that Marvel's done ever since Chadwick passed is that at the end of the Marvel credits thing, it's always that freaking awesome shot of him doing that like vibranium shockwave in Wakanda at the end of the opening. It's always that. He is always the last thing you see before a Marvel movie hits. And I don't know if I've had a more, I don't know if profound is the right word, kind of just peaceful experience of when the credits hit and it was only Chadwick. You could have heard a pin drop in my theater. No one said a word.
Same. Both times I saw the movie, it was just silent through that whole sequence.
Yeah. It was insane. Just not, and extreme respect through all of it. And I do, part of me really respected the fact that when they, because it's a thing we can just get out of the way. They mention that T'Challa was suffering in silence about something and didn't tell Shuri. When in real life, Chadwick was getting ostracized for not looking like he was in great shape, for looking like trash, for looking unhealthy on the streets, that he wasn't keeping in superhero shape, when realistically he was suffering like hell to put out entertainment for people and didn't tell anyone because it was more important to him to do this than it was to get right. He cared more about this than anything. Mirroring real life like that hit kind of hard.
Yeah. And there's a story that I heard earlier when Letitia Wright felt like she found out about Chadwick's death after just getting bombarded with texts from everyone. She thought it was a hoax at first until like she reached out to Daniel Kaluuya, who unfortunately broke the news.
Yeah, it's not something I can imagine can be easy, because if Chadwick's the type of person that I imagine he is, he probably was like a big brother to her. Because I don't know much about Letitia's film career, but I'd imagine that Black Panther was a big deal of breaking out for her.
Oh yeah,
And he was probably there for anything that she would have needed. So
having that be like this, like the start of the film, is it really set the tone for like the rest of the story.
Yeah, and having the very first scene be for the first time in Shuri's life that she actually went towards a spiritual like Wakandan side and prayed to Boss to heal T'Challa and it not work was rough.
Yeah.
And it's just coming from a guy, I am religious myself. I do not have a denomination. I was formerly Catholic. I go to a Baptist church now. I am a Christian. Do not have a denomination. It's just like, what are you, Republican or Democrat? I'm an American. So I vote for smart decisions. Let's put it that way. But that hit really home to me, because I've had stuff in my life go wrong that I've prayed about, and you just have to realize that things are outside of your control. Whether you're religious or not, you don't control everything in your life, and it's going to happen a certain way. And having that be the kicker for she's like, I went with science my whole life. The one freaking time I actually try to go with tradition, it doesn't help. And you guys wonder why I didn't believe it and went with science. It's pretty ballsy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, not expecting that when the movie opened. Yay. And like the movie doesn't stop not being hard on you.
They
It's gonna
really
be
hammer
rough, but
home. They really hammer home like that. What Phase 4 has kind of been all about is grief in all of the various stages,
mhm,
and this is where you really get to see like the 5 stages on display.
it is. And seeing Letitia have to really step up and be the main person in here, after I assumed that was not going to be the case in the original, had to have been a hard situation. And
I'm
but
always very curious, like what the story would have been for the sequel had Chadwick still
been around,
been around.
man, I don't know. But it's just always one of those what ifs that you're never going to hear about. Because even if someone had the uncouthness to ask that at a Q&A or something, they're not going to say.
And I don't expect that anytime soon.
No. And but yeah, it's just this movie did and didn't go where I expected it to. This was a genuine, I had no idea what they were going to do with this movie. At all. I had no expectations whatsoever for what this movie was going to do.
And I like that. I like that a lot of what happened was mostly a surprise.
Yeah, and considering the fact that just the horror show you heard of just trying to get this movie made, just did it's just everyone involved got dealt the worst hand humanly possible. But so anyway, they're trying to deal with who should be in power, and it's obviously the queen took back over, and it was kind of weird that it's like we have the outreach centers, but the world is still unhappy that they're not just handing out vibranium, which I never really expected them to do. Because the last time someone got vibranium that they shouldn't had to have, they lifted a city. So the fact that we had Wakandan research centers getting robbed, it's like,
And that was one of the first great action set pieces where these random I don't know if they were like military or something, but they're clearly going after Wakandan resources only for the Dora Milaje to be like, yeah, nope.
yeah, no, we knew you were coming. You're all idiots. We know these things. With very minimal effort, get rid of all of them and bring them in before the United Nations be like, here's your trash. Try this again and we're going to kill them. It's like, why are we doing this? You want us to play nice, but you go out of your way to go, by the way, we're not going to play nice with you. What are you expecting? What are you actually expecting? And then you find out that they are trying to basically what do I want to say? Scam a college student into making them a vibranium detector.
Ugh.
And we only find out about it because they got their asses beat by someone else. Stop looking for vibranium.
What's that saying go about history? Those who are doomed, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
Yeah, it's like you're doing just fine. If you don't piss off that heavy militant group with all the weapons, they're not gonna go after you. Guess how long Wakanda's had the power to wipe you off the face of the earth and just didn't do it? There's a reason, because they didn't care about anyone else but themselves. So now you go and start poking the bear. Guess what? They're gonna wreck you. Don't be dumb and they won't hurt you. It's like, why? It's always just why? Why don't you share your resources with us? Because you fear you wouldn't handle them correctly. What? We can be reasonable. Just like how we're going to sneak attack you and try and steal your resources just to show you we can be trustworthy. Guys, what are we doing?
I even love the editing of that scene too. As Ramunda is making her big speech, and by the way, Angela Bassett is terrific in this movie. Like, she's making her speech while like the scene is happening, and then the resolution of that is just perfect.
It is, and I have to make sure I'm not getting the wrong person. It's like, she also, I have to give Angela Bassett credit. Like, she's obviously great in everything, but she also made, like, I believe her video game debut in Horizon Forbidden West, and I was quite happy about that. She did freaking amazing. Carrie-Anne Moss was also in that game too, but anyway. But yeah, she's just a presence onto her own. It's just watching her on screen, just that voice. It's amazing. But anyway, yeah, the editing of that scene is just ridiculous. And I'm still trying to get over the fact that going over that and getting to the fact we're actually seeing Namor on screen. And he's not a laughing stock wing-legged idiot. Because that could have happened.
This is objectively the best, in my opinion, the best version of Namor.
Oh yeah.
I understand why people like the character in the comics. I don't.
No.
But I also understand that that's kind of the point of him too, that he's a narcissist who's really only in it for himself.
And stealing Reed Richards' wife.
Multiple times.
I just love everyone's reasoning. That dude can manipulate his body to please Sue in any way he would like, and Namor still stole her away. Like, hey, guy's a good looker, I guess. Women like narcissists. But yeah, this is objectively the best version of him because he actually isn't so full of himself. He's actually got agency for why he wants to do what he's doing, whether it's for good reason or not.
That's debatable, and it's the debate in the movie.
Yeah, and I love how they went out of their way to be like, I'm not just Marvel's Aquaman. I want to, if anything, he's more towards Ocean Master than anything.
Honestly, yeah. He is more of an Ocean Master than an Arthur Curry.
Yeah. And they made his people outright terrifying. Like siren songing scientists to just jump off the rig.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. That's ridiculous. On top of the fact that they're vibranium juiced juggernauts, they also can just do that.
That's a dangerous ability.
Oh yeah. It's kind of ridiculous. But and also controlling fish, like that scene where that what oh now it's blanking what that red thing was that they saw in the ocean. Oh, was it a manta ray, a jellyfish? What was that?
I think that was a jellyfish.
Jellyfish, like a phantom jellyfish or something like that they just seen for the first time, and then it
Yep.
just blinks, and then like their comrades just gone. It's just it's just like what's going on down here? And yeah, it's just they make their presence known very fast. Just Namor turning that helicopter into a whirly-bird to just be like, take your trash and sends it back. Ay, ay, ay. It just very strong character debut.
Yeah.
One of the strongest in all of Marvel.
The other strong character debut we'll talk about in a second. We have to talk about Riri Williams.
I love her already.
Same.
She's fantastic. It's just I want her and Peter Parker to share a movie together.
Mm-hmm.
So bad. Just so bad. Teenage kids just not knowing what the hell's going on and just trying to deal with it. Yeah, it's just when she she goes from being the regular kid who is like hustling people for technology credit. Oh, fantastic.
How much did she charge that kid? Like 80,000?
It was like $8,000. It was a lot. It was and it's just like, yeah, and who did everything for you to get this grade? I was like, right, fine. And she just takes his phone and Venmos the money. It was fantastic. Oh, it was wonderful. But yeah, she goes from that to just going back and all to then just being starstruck about everything that's going on when she finds out who Shuri is. By the way, I need to get this out there. Where does she attend school?
MIT.
Where are MJ and Ned?
I see where you're going with this.
They better be in Ironheart.
I hope so.
They had better freaking be in Ironheart. That's all I gotta say. And Flash is there too. Like everyone but Peter's at MIT. It's like it's a slam dunk. You can't tell me you didn't do that on purpose. But and I also like, man, I understand that it's probably nicer at MIT. But I have seen high-end studio apartments that are smaller than her dorm room. That thing was massive.
Yeah, her dorm was pretty big, unless it's supposed to be for more than 2 people. Like that is a pretty big
even
room.
So, like, considering my master bedroom here, if I take the bedroom across the hall and go like a few feet that way, that thing is half the size of the upstairs of my house. That thing was giant. But like cathedral 12-foot ceilings in that freaking thing. But anyway, again, it's MIT. If you're going there, you're probably paying for a lot. But no, you are. It's just, but anyway, so we're gonna go to like one of the only well, not a problem immediately. I do love the car chase that they go through, and that like showing that Riri had her own little shop that she handled everything in, and trying to figure out. You should. Oh, also, we totally forgot to mention that Namor just snuck into Wakanda.
Yep, because he could just do that.
And just, by the way, here's your vibranium tracker. Didn't make a noise, just dropped off the vibranium tracker. By the way, take away your Okoye beads. We don't need them for this scene. Anyway, that it's showing that she's been working on stuff for a long time, including the Ironheart armor, like a prototype of it. That chase scene with all that is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's mandatory now in a Black Panther movie to have a street lit night car chase.
It's their equivalent of like a hallway scene for the Netflix shows.
Pretty much. The only thing I had a slight problem with, Riri don't give a shit. There's a point where like they're trying to cross the bridge and she just sets off what looks like a bomb that blows away like 6 cop cars when regular cops were just standing there.
Yeah, wait, what is what are they doing there?
That took me out of the movie for a second. I was like, there's no way she didn't mortally wound someone just then. And she's just gonna go back to MIT at the end of the movie? Like, what? But, yeah. All the while, they're trying to get Martin Freeman to still have a point in the second movie.
Yeah, this is like the one negative I have about the film. And it's not Freeman's fault because he was in the first movie, so he has a connection with the people of Wakanda. It's just he just happens to be attached to a subplot that is so obviously teasing Thunderbolts and whatever's happening in Phase 5.
Yeah. And it's just like they expect you in the beginning to believe that she's stupid, not noticing that he's got the Okoyo beads, or like at first, or she's just faking it, or like you got to take that phone call or something like that. Yeah, it's my wife. Like, but then like she's onto him the entire time. It was just like Ross gets screwed over so easily. That was my one main gripe.
Yeah.
But it's like, obviously, now she's going to be like, hey, guys, I know how we could deal with our problems. We don't need the Avengers. And the Sokovia Accords are no more, so I'm just going to wrangle up a group of guys to do I don't know what. So what relation is Everett Ross?
He's CIA.
No, to like to like Betty and her dad.
Good question. I'm gonna look that up. Keep talking.
Because I didn't realize that till just now. If Freeman's gonna be in there, and the fact that we now have Harrison Ford. So did that ever get confirmed?
Yep.
Okay. Wait, that still blows my. That I still like feel like I had like a pipe dream that he's going to be playing Thunderbolt Ross. But if he's not in the Thunderbolts, is he who the Thunderbolts are gonna be going after?
Potentially.
I don't like. Oh boy.
Okay, so as far as I know, there's no familial connection between Everett and Thunderbolt.
That is weird. I always wondered that, but I never looked it up. That is so weird that they're both government officials in the comics, but they're with the same exact last name. well
and yet
known.
they're not, and yet they're not related.
They're not related. That to me is like having oh no, I suppose they don't have the same last name. Never mind. Scratch it. That was gonna be a really dumb statement. I was gonna say not Jen Walters and Bruce Banner not being related, but anyway. Did you I was gonna say a lot of people like kind of didn't like where they went with Shuri just going her way. Did you like the fact that I want to say that Okoye got like ousted instantly because she lost Shuri, or is assumed to have lost Shuri?
I I think in the moment I kind of understand where Ramonda was coming from, because she has a lot of pent up anger towards when Killmonger assumed the throne. Like, the Dora Milaje without question aligned with whoever was sitting on the throne, and that included Okoye.
Yep.
So that kind of, on top of being a mother who
Yeah.
is mourning the loss of everyone in her family, is like rightfully upset.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you there.
So if anything, losing Shuri is really just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah. So I've had people say which in each way. I thought it was kind of weird that we didn't have to wait for December to see the second Avatar, but I've heard people say that the latter half was better in the flashbacks and the beginning was trash. The second was trash. The beginning looked better. Did you like what the CGI and the underwater stuff looked like?
Yeah, it all looked great. I've heard some people saying like their screens were too dark in some of these moments. And while I understand some people's complaints, and all projectors are different, I never had any of those problems.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I really didn't either myself, but I just to me the thing it's a complaint that kind of pisses me off like all the time is that just because one thing looked like the most pristine all of it is ever, if it doesn't look exactly like that, but it's a different version that doesn't look bad, that one looks bad. I hate
Oh,
that. I hate that so
yeah,
much.
I see that way too often.
Yeah, where it's like one hit it out of the park completely and one just did good. Magically, the one that just did good was horrible. I'm like, that's no, that's not how that works at all. Like, I will agree, and toward the end, it's different. Ryan does not do great at heavily CGI'd fight scenes, directing wise, or just the editing's not great. Because the fight with Killmonger and T'Challa at the end of Black Panther 1 did not look good. It looked very soupy. And the fight on the boat, before we get to it, looked like a lot of masses just going after each other at a point.
It does get better from there.
It does get better from there, but it's just like there's always when it's in-depth fight scenes with a lot of CGI involved, I don't know if it's just not Ryan's strength when it's fighting, but as far as just like the scenery and stuff, he did great. In my opinion, he did awesome. So like I don't know. I just didn't get the complaint behind it looking like trash. But so did you like for a fact that we now in a movie have a confirmed mutant?
Yes.
They actually kept him being a mutant.
I am very happy that the M word is like they broke the seal.
they keep saying that they don't plan on doing X-Men for quite a long time, but they're going to cock tease the living hell out of us until then. They're making it known that they exist, just not in a group wearing yellow spandex.
At least not yet.
Did I ever tell you? One of my favorite things ever. I was incredibly fortunate, and I got to meet Stan Lee about less than a year before he passed. And I got to meet him in Wisconsin, of all places. Never thought in a million years that I could be able to do so. But my favorite story, one of my favorite stories, is about him talking to the editor at Marvel. Where he's like, all right, I got this idea, and I want to call it X-Men. No, and I want to call it the Mutants. They'll have all these different powers, and because it's a thing, they can be whatever they want. And then all of a sudden, he's just like, this is right after he stole the story about why Spider-Man couldn't work. He's like, Stan, he can't do it that way. It's not going to work. He's like, all right, fine. Why won't it work? And he's like, well, you can't use the word mutant because no one's going to know what mutants are. And then he left, went back to his office, and after a while came back to him. He's like, all right, we'll call them the X-Men. And he's like, okay, cool, I like that. Start working on it. And then Stan got back to his office, sat in his desk, and went, wait, if they don't know what a mutant is, how are they going to know what an X-Man is?
That's perfect.
Also, listen to the story of him just complaining about how you can't call Spider-Man Spider-Man because people hate spiders, but yet he comes back with, but he's called Batman. Who likes bats? But anyway, yeah, I just it's just crazy to me that we're even living in a world where this is finally an acceptable thing, that we could just have that be mentioned. And I'm happy. But again, it's going to be the far-flung future before we see an X-Men movie. And they're going to have to be careful about how they do them, because Fox fumbled the ball hard. They're the ones that could have had their own cinematic universe.
They really could have.
They have a third of the Marvel. They had a third of the Marvel catalog essentially just because you had X-Men. You could argue quite a lot that you're like, no, that one's kind of X-Men involved. I can kind of have that one. They could have done that with so many people. Like, they could have done a trilogy just out of Apocalypse. And so many people. But, like to quote John Campea, there's a big old sign at 20th Century Fox right above it that says continuity schmontinuity. And anyway, yeah, I also like that they didn't take away his feet. I didn't know if they were going to think that that was too comic booky. One thing I'm appreciating now is they're fully going, people realize that some of this stuff just looks weird. We're at that point now, and I like that.
And outside of maybe like a few remarks, they they take it seriously. They find a way to make the actor, I'm going to probably butcher his name.
I wasn't even going to attempt it.
Tenoch Huerta. They make him look like a badass.
They do. And like they even give him like, and I don't know if it's how it was like the wing-footed like flying devil, or like I can't remember exactly what they say, but they make him sound like an urban like nightmare.
Yep.
It's awesome. And like, do you remember in comics why he's named Namor?
I don't.
The fact they gave his name and origin in this movie to me was pretty cool, because they didn't need to do that. I can't remember the last character that they actually put gigantic significance behind his name. Just the name. That's pretty cool.
And the fact that his name is Namor, which means like which means like no love,
Yes.
is
Yes, and also I
great.
need to say Namor. I have all my life called him Namor. I don't know, and I've heard it pronounced Namor in cartoons. If they're going to call him Namor, and here I'm okay with that. But I'm going to be honest with you, people. When I talk about him 9 times out of 10, because it's grained in my head, I'm probably going to say Namor.
It's probably one of those tomato kind of names.
It is, but yeah, like also just the fact that it makes a lot of sense that when an asteroid came in of vibranium, that it didn't just hit Wakanda. And also that it hit underwater. Duh, no one would have noticed.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of those easy ones where they're like, how come we're not in the other movies? You never noticed that there was a big old vibranium happening? It was underwater. And if you got too close to it, they killed you.
Yep.
So, problem solved. There's no continuity error there. And also, it's just like, where was he in Endgame? Not caring. They didn't come for the underwater. They didn't give a shit.
Exactly.
That's all the surface world's problem. He doesn't give a shit about me. I don't got an Infinity Stone. Yeah, oh boy. Did you I've also heard like my basically surrogate cousin Gideon, who is kind of a film buff. He went to school and actually like made a movie while he was in school for teaching. He didn't particularly like the way the kind of science versus magic debate was done in this. For me, it's more science versus religion that just happens to have magic in it. Were you okay with how they handled Shuri going about all of that?
Oh,
Like her, how she kind of wavered between the two.
I thought it was a good arc for her because she was sort of the scientist. She leaned more towards science than like the old traditions. So I like the way that her coming of age in this movie is sort of combining the two, and that kind of takes the form of using like the old ways and like combining them with new technology, like the way she used a 3D printer to recreate the heart-shaped herb.
That was the one where I'm like, okay, this is comic books. But my God. They better be using that thing for a lot in the future because you just made an herb on a 3D printer. I never heard anyone complain about that too. I love that so much. They're just like, okay, it's a comic book. They made the magical herb out of a 3D printer. Yeah, and I didn't like the weird part about it was, and I get it at the end. Were you kind of weirded out that we barely saw Nakia for the major first half?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad in the second half she shows up more, but and they give a good explanation of why, because she's busy doing her own thing.
A very important own thing that we'll get there. I didn't see that coming. I cried in my theater, but anyway, yeah, that that was even kept from like around people, like the almost everyone, like including Shuri, like yikes. But anyway, I do like that they like that she actually got given a major role that like made sense compared to where they found her in the first movie, like kind of invading a country, getting to know them from the inside and stuff like that. They like actually made her not just T'Challa's ex.
Yeah, she has like kind of greater ambitions, or she wants to um pretty much carve her own path
She does.
while still maintaining like her heritage.
No, absolutely. And like she's not gonna forget where she's from, obviously, but yeah, the sneaking in with all of that, and it's just that was greatly done. Riri just being every bit of her dialogue was hilarious.
Oh yeah, yeah, I loved her.
Yeah, I cannot wait for Ironheart. It's gonna be so good. I was sold on that character within 10 minutes.
Yep.
Eh,
One other detail I really liked is whenever they had subtitles for like any character speaking in their native tongue, it was color coded so you know exactly what they're saying. So
yeah,
like the people of Talakan had like the blue subtitles.
mhm.
Then you had yellow for the Wakandan language, and then white for English, Spanish, whatever.
I do like that, and that's a thing that's become a big thing in video games. It's the first time I've seen it or that I can think of off the top of my head in a movie, where like they'll have a ton of characters talking, and the subtitles will like be over it. They'll have like arrows like showing it's coming from the left, and it's this person talking, and they'll have all theirs in like green, and like you can actually manipulate what the colors are if there's a background on it and stuff like that. I like that. There's not a lot of need for it in some things because there's not a lot of languages involved. Like one of the best ones is like in a game called Ghost of Tsushima. It's on the island of Tsushima, Japan, and like they're speaking English. You could set it to Japanese. They are speaking English, or like you're getting it in English, but they're speaking Japanese. The Mongolians invade, but they don't know what they're saying.
Ooh,
Because
that's
it's in Mongol. And like they'll speak back at you in Japanese, and then they'll subtitle it sometimes like they're speaking in It's very well done. It's incredibly well done, making use of the differences. But yeah, do that more often in movies now. Like I've talked about it in Tekken. Every single character just talks how they talk. Like Hayachi Mishima meets Nina Williams. She's talking English. He's talking full on Japanese, and they just talking at each other. It's understood that you should be smart and understand multiple languages. Do this more often. We don't just have to assume the person's talking English. I can read subtitles.
exactly.
I even watch English now with subtitles on because 9 times out of 10, the audio mixing's so damn bad and you're talking too fast. But yeah, it is a great detail. It's one thing that I like. One thing I also love about these characters I didn't know as much about getting sequels is like you've seen stuff that you're not sure if it's made up for a movie or if it's just new, and it becomes one of the coolest things introduced. I had no idea the Midnight Angels were a thing, and that is also one of the coolest names of anything that they have in Marvel.
Yeah, it's almost too cool for for the designs of these mechs. And
Go ahead.
I kind of get it, and it's played for a laugh, but I understand that Okoye is like, I have notes. I hate it.
I hate it. And like I looked it up. They're pretty accurate. They're like shockingly accurate to what they look like in comics. And I guess the Midnight Angels in comics were like a secret sect of the Doja Marais. Like they're already a strike team, but they're like the secret ops strike team that just takes care of the dirty business horse shit of that what the Doja Marais takes care of. I don't need to know what that is. That you need to have another group inside the Doja Marais for that. But yeah, that's what I was just like. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I remember early in the speculation season, I like we all kind of speculated that there'd be multiple Black Panthers, but I guess nobody predicted that they would just go right ahead and do the Midnight Angels.
Yeah, exactly. And I do one thing with I have to ask, do you another problem I had a friend have with it. Do you think that Shuri should have gotten the powers only when she actually was I don't agree with this by the way, that she should have only gotten the Black Panther powers when she actually like connected rightfully with the ancestors and not with Killmonger?
No, because as far as I understand, it doesn't matter who you see in the ancestral plane. Um, like you're going to get the powers no matter what. It's just who you see up there is I guess exactly who you're meant to see or just how you're feeling at the time. Like the fact that she is seeing Killmonger means like she's holding a lot of anger and resentment at frankly the world, and Killmonger just happens to be like tapping into that, feeding into her like her darker tendencies.
Were you expecting to see Killmonger in this movie?
Um 90% 90% no, but 10% yes, just because Michael B. Jordan has been in all of Coogler's previous films. So he was going to find a way to squeeze him in here.
Yeah. I
I
just
just didn't I just didn't expect this to be how we see him.
Yeah, I really didn't expect that either. So I was kind of shocked. Like I was like, this is going to be the first one that Jordan wasn't in. But I did think it was cool that that was the very first one that he got in like that, and yeah, it was great, man. Also, I don't remember. I can't remember the insult of what he said, but man, M'Baku is just the best. Every scene he was in, I just wanted more.
Same.
It's just every time he was in something. I can't remember what he calls Okoye, but he insults her with something, and I can't remember what it is. And it was some comment
Oh,
about her being bald, and I can't remember. He called her some devil or something. I can't remember what it was, but oh, I laughed so freaking hard. He's just always the best. He always has the best lines. His expressions are ridiculous. He's great. Um, I do have to say, I honestly think my favorite costume in the MCU is Shuri's Black Panther costume.
it looks actually really good.
All it took was adding gold onto partially T'Challa's old look to spice it up a bit, and then adding the white dots. It's so simplistic, but it's so good. It's not overly complicated. It's simply colored with just slight alterations, and it looks phenomenal.
Yep.
And also just the Ironheart armor looked great.
Yeah.
Just every bit of it looked awesome. And it could have not been, and it was just like seeing multiple people where it's just like, well, it looks like Iron Man. I'm like,
That's kind of
the point.
yeah,
She's
like in the comics, Tony Stark becomes Riri's AI.
yeah, it's like guys, that's because she's a what do I want to say? What's the word? A legacy character. That's it's the point. She's called Ironheart for a reason. They don't have iron in her name to be dumb. And yeah, and it's a man. If they ever do bring him back as her AI, I hope they don't. I want her to be her own thing, but I would lose it a little bit in the theater if all of a sudden he was just the automated voice of that. But um, so were you expecting Amanda to die?
I'm 50 on this. I wasn't expecting how she would die. But I figured there had to have been like some heavy casualties with Namor almost drowning the capital.
Yeah. Now, this is going to be one big thing that I have an issue with in the film. I feel this film is too long.
Yeah. I mean, I was never bored watching it, but if there are scenes that can be removed, in my opinion, it would be anything that isn't like directly involved with the central conflict. So like, unfortunately, that includes all of Valentina's moments.
Yeah, and like I was trying to talk with someone about what exactly could get cut or switched around. If you're still going to kill Ramonda and you're going to have Shuri get away while Ramonda's there, you could have had him kill her on that spot. And then be like, you have a week to make your decision or I'm coming to the Capitol.
Oh, so just kind of tightening certain scenes.
Tightening certain things where it's like, I always thought it was rather dumb, in my opinion, in most movies, where this force wants another force to help them and be their military aid because of their power. And then and then they come and wipe the fucking floor with them, embarrass them, and make them look like the most weak and defenseless things on the planet, and then go, you got a week to decide if you want to help us, and I'm coming back. Why do you want us to help you? You just kicked the shit out of us. You don't need our help, clearly. The whole assault on the Capitol was just kind of like, why? You could have had him find out that Shuri and Riri got rescued, kill Ramonda then, send a messenger with her body to be like, I told you if you left and tried to betray me that there'd be problems. In a week, I'm coming for the Capitol. And then there's like 20 to 25 minutes of that movie is just chopped out. Because I'm going to be honest, I didn't need them fighting on that boat.
Oh, so you would rather
you could have had the whole thing happen in the Capitol.
Okay.
Because I'm going to be real here. You could have had an ocean outside of Wakanda where they did the whole setup with the Sonic thing, or a body of water where they had the whole Sonic thing happen. Still do that. And then she rushes him back into the Capitol and they have the fight in the Capitol. And then they're fighting all throughout the Capitol versus being obviously outgunned and outmanned without Shuri there in the middle of the ocean fighting sea people.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Because, like, if Shuri didn't take down Namor, they were fucked.
The only thing I have to say against that is the final battle between Shuri and Namor had to take place on a desert, because that's
I get that, but Wakanda's future whatever land. Are you telling me there's not a random desert in Wakanda they could have just said was there?
Fair.
We had an entire underwater civilization. I could have bought that there was a desert in Wakanda. Or that they were next to one. But either way, it's just like, that's me going, you could have chopped a half an hour out of the movie and made a tight-knit 2-hour movie. Because, like you said, I was enjoying all of it, but there were parts where I'm like, we're just talking. And I fully understand what they're going for, but I didn't need this part in the movie. But, yeah, and it's like the Midnight Angels were cool. Part of those fight scenes were cool, but like after a while, it kind of just turned into chunks of CGI being thrown at the Wakandans. That was my main issue with how that fight was handled. Like, the attack of the Capitol looked great because you had a lot more going on, and you could have just had the whole fight happen during an attack on the Capitol. Because they're like, screw it. We're going to go start trashing their home and then have to start defending themselves, and like Wakandans start bringing up to support Shuri. Like, in my brain, I'm like, we really could have trimmed some fat. But it is what it is. I'm not upset with the movie that we got. It's just that, for me, that could have been. But
yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know why it's so hard for studios to find like that sweet spot when it comes to comic book movies, because sometimes they can come off as they can be too short, or they're too long but also not long enough.
mm-hmm.
And this isn't just a problem with Marvel. It's a problem with like just any blockbuster.
Yeah, it's like, one example I'll say. Oh, well, actually, all of them. All the John Wick movies. I have never been upset anywhere at pacing, plotting, writing, anything in any of them. They're all exactly what they need to be, as long as they need to be, as actiony as they need to be, and done how they need to be. Those are some of the most tight-knit films I've seen in my entire life. And it's just like, I understand they want to spend money. And again, I repeat, they make Endgame's total gross every month, so they're not worried about money. But until you get your own in-house CGI place, maybe just like tighten them up a touch. I'd be very okay with an hour and 30-minute long Marvel movie.
Same.
Very okay with it. Like Armor Wars, I don't know how that went from a series to a movie, but I'd be very okay if that's just an hour and a half long. Like the same with Captain America 4.
Like maybe 2 hours max, but
yeah.
And anything outside of that, like you really have to justify that that runtime.
Exactly. And that's why like a lot of those series on Marvel are like 6 episodes that are 20 minutes long. They're max 2 hours. And everything gets done within them. The last couple bits of them have been incredibly tight-knit, on the money, everything only they've ever needed. And some have needed more, some have needed less. But I don't know if it's just me getting older with older or what, but not everything needs to be long. Like Endgame, that needed to be long. You had a lot of ground to cover, and I was never sick of watching Endgame. Like I said, I was never sick of this either, but I actively found myself going, that was really well done, really well written, but I didn't need that scene. It's a really weird feeling to have. I was like, that was really nice, and I'm glad I saw it, but I didn't need to.
And that's why I took issue with like the Valentina stuff, because that and I don't know what it is, but I like Julie Louis-Dreyfus, and I in theory like the character, but for some reason I'm having trouble connecting with her portrayal in the MCU.
Because they've
Maybe
given her
maybe it's
nothing
because
to do.
yeah, that's it. And
She literally comes on screen and goes, "Here's your invite. Bye." Like, she's literally done the end of Iron Man 4 times. And that's it.
like to like to Nick Fury's credit, while his subplot in Iron Man 2 just like derails what was supposed to be like the main story, at least he's doing something.
Yeah. It like after a while that made sense that he was there. And every time you see Nick Fury, he's doing something. He's just not going, "Hey kid, here's your Avengers card. See you later." Like, she's literally just coming and going, "Well, are you mad at Captain America still? Come on in. By the way, Hawkeye maybe murdered your sister. Go on, honey." And now, sorry, Ross, but I knew you were talking to the Wakandans, so now I stole your job. Bye. Like, she's just there to just fuck with the character and leave. And like, Thunderbolt Ross did that. But guess what? Every time they had him on screen to do that, there was a point to it.
Mm-hmm.
In Endgame, when he does it, there's a point. No.
Infinity War.
Infinity War. Sorry. In Infinity War, it made sense. In Civil War, it made sense. He was on screen to be the guy that had to say the thing, and he was gone. It made sense. They're kind of just giving her scenes to make you remember she exists.
Yeah, like her involvement is like the most obvious example of what people make fun of Marvel for.
Yeah. And like, give or take, if you're going to, I do like that they showed that she screwed Ross out of his job with the CIA, because you need to have her be in the CIA in order to be able to pull the Thunderbolts off. But you could have just said she was in the CIA. Like, she didn't have to steal Ross's job. You could have just had him be on a phone call and be like, yeah, well, let's did this thing. And that'd be it. I think Martin Freeman's in that movie for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Why? He was so, and like, I owe Shuri my life. I need to do this for her. I get it. Like, if you could have had a post-credit scene where, like, he's in jail showing that Valentina screwed him over and then the Wakandans break him out, it would have been the same thing, roughly. Not needed, but a less wasteful version of it. You could always just have like Shuri or someone talking to somebody, but you never show Martin's face. And then like show that he got screwed over because he was talking to Wakandans or like something. But you have Martin Freeman, for crying out loud. You could have some done. And that's another thing. If you had a half an hour less in this film, or took that half an hour for something different, you could have fleshed out what Ross and Valentina were doing. Because you could have made her more central to the Wakandans being screwed over and Martin being screwed over, or her looking into things with the Thunderbolts, because again, she's just passing out club gift cards at this point.
Basically.
And if like she never gets mentioned again until Thunderbolts, what was the point? And I don't know what Thunderbolts is, but
I think Thunderbolts is 2025.
Well, then she better do something substantial in between there, cause she's getting to be just the definition of a background character. Because, like, she had no ties to anyone. She just showed up.
Okay, so Thunderbolts is going to be released July 26, 2024.
Okay, I guess they have time to shoot it and do some stuff, but it's like they're not doing a good job of building her. And you have Julie Louis-Dreyfus in this role. She's fantastic. I didn't know if I'd like her in this like snarky asshole, I'm a villain screwing people over role, but she's good at it. But you're giving her nothing to chew on at all.
Yeah, that's why her performance kind of comes across as like kind of flailing
Yeah,
because she has nothing to work with.
exactly. And you need to fix that. And I hope they hear that from this because it's the one giant glaring issue from the movie.
Yeah, they have time to fix this because Thunderbolts doesn't start filming till next year, and who knows, she might also appear in Captain America 4. I can't say for sure,
Maybe.
but as long as she has like a meteor role in the universe, I'll probably feel better about her actual role.
Yeah, she just needs something, period. At all. But okay, so we get through the get into the fight, which was good, and then we have her fighting with Namor. Did you think? And now I think he would have been okay with it, considering how much the role meant to him. Do you think that when she was going to see someone of the good side of her ancestors, that they wouldn't have shown his face, but they would have AI'd Chadwick's voice? It wouldn't be the first time Marvel did it. James Earl Jones has signed off on his Vader voice.
As long as the family is okay with it,
And I assume they probably
then
would have been. I'm not saying they should have. I'm just wondering if you think that. Did you think that was going to happen?
I didn't think it would happen this time only because I wasn't sure if they would give the okay like this shortly after his passing.
Mm-hmm.
But I at least like that she actually gets to see Ramonda because there's a line that Shorty says earlier in the film like the last person who really knew me is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that it was her that kind of brought her back to the light.
Yeah, that was nice. But also just how much of a savage Shuri is when she roasts Namor with the freaking fumes from the fucking jet. Was
She's just
like,
like, "Do you need a glass of water?"
oh, like, girl, you just murdered him. Also, she cuts one of his wings off. You need a glass of water. She was such a bitch. Yeah, and it just, oh man, it was such a good setup. The fight was great, and also her stabbed clean through the chest. Like they did not go light on each other, and I appreciated that.
Same.
And
Both times I saw that when she was just getting um like skewered by that pole. Like I felt it both times.
yeah, it'd be kind of hard not to. But yeah, that was rough. And again, like we'll protect your waters. Not that you freaking need it, because obviously you're doing pretty okay. But yeah, so we have a central conflict set up that like they're probably still gonna be enemies, and like they're gonna somehow screw with the Wakandans again. Like in what film, I don't know, but because like I don't. It'll be interesting to see if they do another Black Panther movie.
I'm sure they will like years down the line, but first of all, I think Ryan Coogler deserves some time off. After everything after everything he's been through,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I know he's a producer on Ironheart, but and he also is still kind of developing that Wakanda TV series.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh yeah, that's something that he's kind of talked about. I don't think they've ever really like set it in stone. Um, but like outside of those two projects, I want him to take some time for himself.
Uh-huh.
Maybe direct like a smaller movie somewhere in between.
Yeah. What he probably is sitting on a good amount of scratch to where he could just take a good 6 months. Just take a break. Can't tell me Marvel wouldn't be calling or just like, as soon as you're ready, my guy, we'll have work for you. It's not like he makes bad movies. Like, he's not directing Creed 3 for like a reason. I can't imagine that Michael B. Jordan just went, what if I just directed? I can imagine it was probably like, Ryan, I got it. But yeah, it's so we get to the end credit scene that I was weirded out for the first half of it, where I'm like, okay, it's an end credit scene. She's going to South America to burn the funeral gown that she wore because of like letting go, like Ramonda told her to do. And I'm like, I get it. This is really peaceful. This is for obviously for Chadwick and that stuff like that. But I'm like, this just should have been in the movie. Like that. I was like so confused. I'm like, this isn't like there's not a big deal coming out of this. And then I see Nakia walking towards her with a kid. And my entire theater just the air sucked clean out of the room.
By the way, we have seen that kid before. Early in the movie when Ramonda first arrives at Haiti, that kid is one of like the few of her students that introduces her to Nakia.
Oh, got it. Okay. I thought you were going to say another
So
movie.
when
I'm like, what?
yeah, no. So when Shuri says like did my mother meet him? She says yes.
Yes. Nice.
And I thought that was a really nice touch.
Nice. But yeah, when he says his name, which I do not remember, but then he says it's not his actual name. His actual name is T'Challa. I started crying.
Yeah, same.
And I was not ashamed. It was pitch dark theater. You could see tears roll down my eyes. I'm just like, that is so good. You never need to mention that child ever again. But that was awesome. Just
it was just the perfect like sort of tip of the hat for people who, I get it. Like people wanted like there's a movement out there for recast T'Challa, and I understand for the cast and the crew why that just wasn't an option. But that doesn't mean there can't be like the character can still live on one way or another. And legacy is a major theme in this universe.
Mm-hmm. They're in the middle of legacying a bunch of people.
Yep.
And it's just like, this is something that would have been done probably a long time. Like if down the road they had T'Challa do something where he couldn't be Black Panther anymore and Shuri had to do it. Like that probably could have been like a third movie thing that probably would have happened anyway. You can't tell me they didn't have that in mind at some point. And it's been done in comics. There's been all sorts of stuff like that. It's just like, there are few people that when they got their role, they were that role in comic book movies like Chadwick was with Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
He lived that. He was incredibly proud of that. I'm going to try and not cry when I say this. Kevin Conroy just passed this past week. And it's just another one of those things where he protected that role with his life. There was a thing where I was reading an interview where this guy got several people from the Justice League cartoon to do like interviews and do like funny infomercials based off of scripts that he did. And then when Kevin came in, that like he had this funny thing about like I can't remember exactly what the risk of it was, but Kevin thought it was hilarious. But he's like, I'm not getting recorded saying that because I don't want their recording of Batman saying that. I think it's funny and I appreciate the writing, just I don't feel comfortable having that being recorded in the Batman voice. And I'm just like that because like there's no thing saying he couldn't do it. He just didn't want to. Protection of a role like that when it means something to you isn't a very nuanced, isn't a very common thing to come by. A lot of these people, it's like, yeah, just it's a role I do, and they just kind of go on with it. That role was Chadwick. Like another person would have came in and he would have been compared so hard. He would have been screwed.
It's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah. And when immediately the head of the studios and Disney are like, yeah, no, we're not recasting them. It was almost immediate. They were just like, dude, no, we can't. You just, no. When they're like, oh, by the way, yeah, it's a part of a multi-$100 million franchise. No, we're not recasting him. If you're just care about the role and making sure someone fits it to make money, they don't do that.
Yeah, they prove that with not recasting T'Challa. And I know there are people who are pitching a fit about Marvel recasting Thunderbolt Ross after losing William Hurt, but there is a huge difference.
There is. Thunderbolt Ross, even being in a Marvel movie of his own, I think has less screen time than Stan Lee.
Yep.
All he was a military general. Like, he has bordering on, like, similar screen time to Terrence Howard. And they, in a flash, recasted him. Like, I give or take. Now, that was before Marvel Studios was owned by Disney, but it's like, it's a big difference. And then if you have him in future plans where you needed the actual Thunderbolt Ross, that's different. He wasn't like a definitive dude. William Hurt played a guy who was a disgruntled old war general. You can't tell me 1,300 people can't do that.
Exactly.
It wasn't exactly a unique role. It wasn't.
But Black Panther being as you know, as big of a role as like a leader of Wakanda, yeah, that's a very sensitive issue.
And just for what it was to the African American or just African community, that was a big deal. Like, I get that you've already had black-led superhero films, Blade, the hit movie classic Steel with Shaq, but like, that was a big deal. This was just, they put a lot more into it actually being a representation this time around, and everyone representative of it felt Chadwick in that role. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of people that are mad about the recasting are a lot of people that representation wasn't for.
Yeah.
Don't need to be slightly throwing away the racism on that, but a lot of people are just like, well, I don't understand why it's not a big deal. Seriously. But anyway, yeah, I really liked it. I was kind of expecting another post-credit scene, but we didn't get it. I don't know what it would have been, but I was kind of expecting another one. But then again, having the only post-credit scene be that was better.
Agreed. I know we all speculated of a certain Latvian ruler showing up in some capacity, but I'm glad they kept this focused on one villain. And again, I barely consider Namor a villain so much as an antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm glad for the most part they kept this movie focused, and like there was world building for the greater MCU, but it was more it was more specific to Wakanda's relationship to the world than just generic Marvel world building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
But yeah, on the whole, really love this. Definitely recommend seeing this in Dolby, which is how I experienced this.
Nice. Yeah, it's really good. It's really, really good. Yeah, and it's just well done. It could have been an absolute nightmare with the situation that they were in, but they pulled it off, and they pulled it off masterfully. Like I said, some fat could have been cut, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. All right, Mike, let's get out of here. Where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at CaptainK42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser, on the Banana Meter. Listen to all of our podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we.
Absolutely. You can find me everywhere at Organoid Zero, mostly on Twitch and YouTube. All right, everybody. Until next time, we will see you later. Bye.